inflation being one. It dogged the nation. When he was president, OPEC, oil-producing nations, held back supply, which led to record gas prices in the U.S., and you saw a lot of long lines domestically people waiting for gas. And on an international level, Carter was instrumental in negotiating the Camp David Accords, a peace deal that established peace between Israel and Egypt, made those two nations partners, and that largely still exists today. Perhaps his most memorable crisis overseas was the 1979 Iranian Revolution, a really fundamental misunderstanding by U.S. intelligence of what was happening on the ground. It culminated with Americans being taken hostage by Iranian revolutionaries. Ultimately, those hostages were released on the last day of his presidency. But I want to fast forward to his time after office, because he established the Carter Center in 1982, and for decades it has made it its mission to spread democracy and human rights globally. The former president has become synonymous as well with Habitat for Humanity, partnering with the nonprofit, building homes all over the world in a lot of impoverished areas. And on the diplomacy front, he has really been one of the most high-profile, unofficial U.S. ambassadors, stepping in often to help negotiate and mitigate international crises between the United States and some foreign adversaries like North Korea and like Libya. So Natasha, really, when you look at his legacy, I think he redefined what it means to have a post-presidential life. 43 years out of office, he may be the first person in history to be remembered more for what happened out of office than for what he did in. So our thoughts right now with his family, as they are going through this really tough situation.
Certainly. Joe Cleo, live for us in Washington, thank you so much. Meanwhile, we are staying on top of this story that News Nation has been closely tracking from the very beginning. FEMA is now sending a team to East Palestine, Ohio, and this comes more than 2 weeks after the train derailment threatened the small town. Governor Mike DeWine came under criticism for not requesting federal aid sooner, and that his office criticized FEMA over allegations FEMA was not stepping up to help. Meantime, there are new reports that former President Trump will be visiting East Palestine on Wednesday. Trump is expected to meet with community members, and I heard that area Palestine hall meeting. News Nation was the first to speak with him after the disaster. The conditions are so bad that one woman who News Nation has been in contact with has rashes on her body after showering. Let's get to News Nation's Rich McHugh live on the ground in East Palestine, And Rich, you spoke with a couple who's already having some negative health effects.
Hey, good evening, Natasha. That's right. So the first news is that the CEO of Norfolk Southern was here today, finally after 2 weeks, showed up, met with officials in this church behind me, closed door meetings, was escorted in and out by police, but was overheard telling someone he is here to support. The people we were speaking to don't buy it. For instance, they say that the health threat is real here, real time. One couple we spoke to went back to their house. We interviewed them earlier in the week. They went back to their house today for 30 minutes and had some crazy health effects. Take a look.
Kelly posted this picture.
So we're in the kennel this morning,
It's not
picking up some
complimenting
supplies.
on it,
I left. I went home to take it to home. I went back to the place where we're being evacuated.
Caitlin Schwartzwelder and her boyfriend Chris, after being evacuated, came back home today. But she says she broke out in a rash almost instantly.
I then dressed to get into the shower, and I had a rash all over the side of my face, on both sides, and all over my chest.
Take a look at these photos of her this morning after coming back on her property. The rash all over her face, neck, and chest.
My boyfriend Chris also had a rash down his left side, and to this moment, right now, I have a really low-grade constant headache.
They live nearly a mile from the derailment where Norfolk Southern released the toxins into the air 2 weeks ago. But their issues clearly persist. But with FEMA finally coming and with all the focus directed at East Palestine, these folks say they're forgotten because they live just over the state line in Pennsylvania.
It feels like nobody gives a damn beyond us.
They too were forced to evacuate.
And what if we couldn't afford to do any of this?
My wife is 37 weeks pregnant this Friday, and she's going to be induced. And it's all a little scary because we can't drink the water, unable to get our water tested because we're not a priority as of now. So don't know what my newborn son is going to come home to.
John and Julie Kent fear the future of their horse sanctuary could be in jeopardy.
And there was flames roughly a couple hundred feet into the sky. There was a black smoke cloud, and it was going over the horses. I would say that it was probably like no more than 10 feet above their head.
In the photos, you can see the toxic smoke flowing over their horses. They worry if they'll survive.
The horses and myself and anybody that was here really in this general vicinity was exposed.
And while the governor of Ohio and others have said repeatedly the air and water is safe, it's clear that some of the toxins have taken hold.
A couple miles outside of town, this is Leslie Run. I've heard this is happening. I didn't quite believe it, but watch this. So when you stick your stick in the water, all the chemicals come to the surface in like rainbows. It's quite alarming.
News Nation has asked Norfolk Southern CEO for an interview repeatedly, and we've sent a producer to their headquarters with no luck.
How does this whole experience feel for you?
That money matters more than humanity. Truly.
Now, the police presence here has already stepped up just in the past 24 hours. FEMA is apparently going to be here tomorrow. Trump is coming midweek. So clearly things are ratcheting up. Natasha, back to you.
Yeah, Rich McHugh live on the ground in East Palestine for us. Thank you so much. I want to bring in Gia Delicio now. She and her family live in East Palestine. She says the smell is overwhelming, that the town feels like a war zone. Gia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And Gia, first and foremost, how is your health, your family's physical health right now? What have you noticed?
Right now, we are feeling good. No symptoms to report. We are using bottled water and just taking it day by day.
Yeah. You said the area is like a war zone. Can you help us understand what you mean by that?
We are a small rural town. We are not used to this level of attention. There are reporters everywhere, pictures of your house, all over social media from people you don't know. The National Guard was here, the EPA is here. It's just, you go about your day and then you come home from work and you remember, oh yes, this is happening. It's really happening here.
And immediately after the burn, what health effects did you notice in the ensuing days?
It was a terrible smell. You were getting headaches from the smell, sneezing. We changed all of our filters in our furnace and have been feeling okay at home since then, but it's definitely outside. It depends on which way the wind blows, and the closer you get to the creek seems to be really the biggest problem at the moment.
What kind of effects are the chemicals having on your plants and your water?
Well, we are drinking bottled water, where even though they told us that the tap water is safe, we're not taking any chances. People are having symptoms in town, so that doesn't seem to be the truth. It's causing a lot of confusion, a lot of frustration. We're drinking tap water. It's winter time still, but there are concerns going forward. Can I plant a vegetable garden this summer? We just don't know exactly what we're in for yet.
There are so many on social media saying, even though the EPA says it is safe to return, that residents there should simply pick up and move. What would you say to those people? Is it that simple?
That is one of the most frustrating things to come out of this situation. We are a working class community. Nobody can afford to lose a major equity in their homes. And just because we are a small rural community, it does not mean that we don't matter, that our lives and our homes can be thrown away and just leave, on a whim. Our whole lives are here. We work here, we live here, we're raising our kids here. Norfolk Southern needs to clean up this mess. They need to be held responsible for what they did to our town.
What would justice look like to you?
Justice to me is going to go beyond just the cleanup. It is our town this month, but it can be anyone's town tomorrow. And unfortunately, we've seen that already. Norfolk Southern is a hugely profitable company, and they spend a lot of their money on stock buybacks for shareholders and lobbying the government to get rid of the regulations that would keep their workers and the communities that they drive through safe. This is not just about a little town in East Palestine in Ohio's 6th district. We need everybody, even outside of Ohio, to call their representatives and let them know that this is a federal, national issue.
For people who don't live in East Palestine, what would you hope that they should know?
I just hope that they know that this can be them tomorrow. Unfortunately, we're already seeing that. There was another train that derailed in Detroit, and that the root of this problem is corporate corruption. They are lobbying our politicians, and they are union busting, so their workers do not have safe working environments, and it is only going to get worse unless we, the people, push for it to get better. We need to hold these companies accountable, and they need to be able to be held to regulations.
Gee, Delicio, I appreciate your time and wishing your continued safety. I hope that you can do what you need to do to keep yourself safe right now. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, News Nation correspondent Evan Lambert is heading back to East Palestine after his arrest while reporting live at a press conference last week. Mayor was thrown to the ground while doing his job and charged with trespassing and disorderly conduct. Well, all charges have been dropped. Evan Lambert is back on this developing story in Ohio with new live reports beginning Monday right here on News Nation. Well, the Biden administration formally concluded that Russia has committed crimes against humanity in its invasion of Ukraine. This is new today. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris making the announcement during the U.S. Ukraine